Hey everyone, this video is a little bit of a more spicy one. It's about Tesla investors and their relation to NIO. And well, I'm a Tesla investor and I'm one of those Tesla investors who see that Tesla is succeeding. That's an amazing company. I see potential in the company. I'm holding shares. In fact, it's my number one holding. And then I still think there is opportunity in NIO. But there are other Tesla investors out there too. And one of them we need to talk about today, which is about this short seller called Gary Black, who publicly announced yesterday that he is shorting NIO. And that's interesting because, of course, he's one of the main social media accounts of a Tesla bull out there. He's a big influencer. He's long Tesla with his own fund. And so he is one of those investors who is actually betting against NIO, meaning that he is shorting NIO. He thinks he can buy back the stock later on at a cheaper price than now. And he publicly mentioned that yesterday in a Twitter talk. And so watch this video till the very end if you want to hear, first of all, the thesis why Gary Black is shorting NIO and also my take on that. And second of all, what I think this will all mean for NIO. First of all, I kind of always suspected that this is happening. So there have been quite a few Tesla investors who publicly been quite hostile towards NIO. You can see some of the Tesla investors creating negative content around NIO. And I always thought possibly some of them who have really large Tesla positions might also take a short on NIO because either they want the company to not succeed or maybe also to hedge their position. So these are two legitimate reasons of being short NIO and fighting against NIO in that sense. And maybe just some of you are really just unaware that lots of the negativity, biases, and narratives out there against NIO are actually coming from some of the more prominent Tesla accounts. For example, some accounts that are actually getting even endorsement, meaning interaction on Twitter by Elon Musk, or for example, Homer's Catalog. He's a guy who has been hosting the NIO short selling report on Twitter in a space. He's also been publicly very negative about China and against all sort of other EV stocks. So if you're not aware of stuff like this happening, then maybe this video can help you to create a little bit of an awareness, because this way you can also, kind of think about, when you watch the next video of, let's say, Meet Kevin or who else, Tom Nash and so on, and they are having sometimes these really negative vibes towards maybe NIO, towards China and so on, that you might manage to see through of who's saying what at least, and then, go through their also their arguments and their facts which they're providing in the videos, and then also think a little bit through in terms of which of the stuff that they're saying is actually reasonable and what of it seems to be following maybe a little bit of an agenda here. So here with Gary Black, we have actually something on record, so we can listen to his actual thesis of why he is shorting NIO with his fund. And let's listen to it and I'll give you my take.
About NIO, NIO I think is also a high conviction short. Short interest is about 7%. They still have about 14 billion in market cap. They don't make money.
So Gary is calling his NIO short a conviction play, so meaning he's very convinced with it. So also 7% of the float is actually short in NIO. It's not only him thinking like that, and goes to show that NIO, as he mentioned, an unprofitable company, is having really difficulties in this very tough environment, not only on the stock markets, but just also in general. They're not profitable yet. They need to find a way to actually achieve that. Whether or not that is possible or not, we don't know, actually. I don't know either. But Gary seems to be convinced that that might not be the case.
They just cut prices. They weren't going to cut prices, but then they finally decided they had to match because they were losing too much volume. And they ended free battery swapping.
So here we have the first real argument that we can talk about why Gary Black is short NIO. So of course the fact that others are shorting NIO can't be the reason itself, right? And he's talking about price cuts, and let me give you another perspective around it. So he's calling it a price cut because of the competitive landscape and also that NIO wants to drive volume with it, and he's suggesting that NIO essentially has to follow in Tesla's footsteps here, because Tesla, of course, famously has been cutting prices. And he also mentions how NIO said initially they wouldn't go this road and would not cut prices, right? But now they end up doing it. Now, one way to think about it is also that this is essentially just another option to buy NIO cars. So before that, you only had the option of buy the car and you get free battery swapping for a lifetime. And NIO had essentially priced that one in. Now they're offering also a lower entry price, but you don't get free battery swapping. Instead, you will have to pay for each of the swaps. And that essentially is creating a larger addressable market, because people who didn't want to pay the full sum upfront initially can now opt to buy the car cheaper and either choose to use the swapping and pay for it occasionally, or not even swap and just supercharge or home charge, right? And so, in a sense, this is not really a price cut. It's just another buy option, because you can still buy the original package in a way. But of course, you can also say, like, this kind of a trick that NIO is playing here. It's a way of not, making a previous owner unhappy because they have a better package than the new owners at the lower price. And NIO kind of played this trick in a way of not messing too much with their premium positioning there. But you can also argue what Gary Black said next.
And NIO's up at the high end, charging more than Tesla, and people didn't see the value proposition, so they finally cut prices.
So he's saying here that users didn't see the value proposition. And in fact, this is something that Li Bin himself said on the earnings call. And so I would say, yes, this is a real argument where we can say that, currently, like Li Bin said, everything is just around the bargain price. And NIO sort of thought about this, how can they offer a similar option for users, and they came up with this option here. Whether or not this will mean that battery swapping in general will not get accepted, or people are not willing to pay a higher price for essentially having a higher package, I think that would come up to the long term. We'll see whether or not, how is this going to pan out also when, for example, the economy is doing better. But I would say this is one of the real arguments for Gary Black here, where he has got a fair point that we don't know whether or not this NIO value proposition is working or not, and how much of a differentiation this really is to competitors in the markets.
The Chinese market is the most competitive market. Not only do you have Tesla, but you've got XPEV, which probably has the best, outside of Tesla, the best, FSD type product out there. Li is another one that's very aggressive. You got BYD, which is very aggressive on pricing.
Then I found this comment rather interesting, because he's talking about Tesla and XPeng and how they are leading the sort of FSD in China. And I think this is the first time it really shows how Gary Black has not got his foot on the ground in China. He seems to recite just a narrative that it's out there. XPeng has branded itself as a technological leader in this field, and he just thinks that Tesla is also doing very good in China when it comes to FSD. In fact, I have driven XPeng, Tesla, NIO, Huawei, other vehicles in China, and tested also their autonomous driving just very recently. But I have to say, of course, it's always evolving. But I have to say, even as a Tesla investor, that Tesla is not leading the market in China anymore. It's definitely, in my point of view, Huawei there. Aside from the other players like Apollo or so on, which have a different approach. But Huawei autonomous driving division is really, really interesting. But then I would say NOP plus beta and XPeng, they are also very, very capable. They can do, some sort of very automatic highway driving, overtaking, on-ramping, off-ramping, everything fully automated and very fluent. and Tesla simply can't do it in the same way in China currently. This might change in the future. I also would like to add that I think the Tesla FSD approach globally, or also this really interesting approach of going vision only and without HD maps and so on, is very interesting. It's very promising if Elon Musk can pull it off. I think there is a chance to it, and I think this is an advantage that Tesla has from a technology aspect. However, we can simply not say that Tesla is leading on the ground in China. In fact, there are many Tesla owners in China who are complaining that there haven't been lots of updates and that Tesla is lacking. And so he is repeating that in a way and basing a short on that argument, which I think kind of shows that he's not really, he's calling it a conviction short, but he doesn't seem to have the full picture there. And this is also showing some information arbitrage here where, the market should ultimately be, able to see through what is the reality and what is, just made up and out there as a narrative. And, here is one of those aspects where this short could actually go up in flames and where the shorts could get burned when the market actually finds out what is the reality here in China.
Here's the math. NIO had 80% revenue growth in the first quarter. They guided to minus 14 in the second quarter, and the street is still looking for 30% revenue growth in the second half, even though they guided to minus 14 in the second quarter, the current quarter.
And then there's this other argument by Gary Black where he's pointing to the second quarter here, which he says is going to show negative growth. And here might be another way how Gary Black may not have the most deep insight into NIO and maybe not deeply enough following the company, because I think if you're really deeply following the company, you would already know about the second quarter. And I think most of the investors are actually, looking beyond that already. If you're following the earnings calls and if you also look at the Wall Street estimates and so on, I think also especially the way how NIO is also reporting their numbers always quite late. This may actually lead to some confusion for some of the investors out there who are simply looking at the Bloomberg terminal and then seeing those numbers on the screen and the next quarter. And he's not going as far as looking at the second half of the year, or in fact, he's maybe doubting that, I don't really understand this argument actually, why he's referring to the second quarter and then saying, how with that can actually the second half of the year be good? Because frankly, there are quite a few reasons, which I'm not going to name all of them, that lets investors to believe that there might be a trend change in the second half of the year. So if I'm referring again to my very simple scenario cases here, you can see that, of course, Gary Black, he's expecting the share price to fall even further, meaning that investors are pricing in negative growth maybe during the entire year, because looking at the whole year of 2023, but he's really not looking at any reasons why the volumes may actually be growing in a year-over-year full year analysis. And that, needs to be seen whether or not he's right with this assumption here, or if his probabilities are right on the fact that it's more probable that NIO is going to show negative year-over-year growth, or the company actually manages to slightly grow or stay the same, or actually reach the targets which they publicly announced.
I don't even know how. I'm not saying that they're going to go bankrupt, because they got plenty of cash, but I just think the stock is going to come down some more.
Then interestingly, he's saying he doesn't think that NIO is going to go bankrupt. That's an interesting one, because I think there could be plenty of scenarios where you can make up that NIO is actually going to go bankrupt, or maybe talk about how they have just recently raised more funds. Maybe he just, because of that Abu Dhabi just invested, doesn't want to highlight this as a reason why he's shorting NIO, because of NIO's abilities to raise funds currently. But of course, with his perspective, I would go so far that he would like to see the NIO stock price also depressed, because at that point, of course, it's going to get very difficult for NIO to raise new funds. And then that increases the likelihood also that NIO certainly faces even liquidity issues. Let's say the stock price goes to a very, very low price. At that point, they wouldn't want to dilute shareholders, or couldn't raise a lot of money. And if they keep continuing burning a lot of cash and they don't manage to break even, that would essentially open the road to bankruptcy. But he's not mentioning that one, maybe because he just doesn't think that this is the case, or maybe he didn't look close enough that this is actually a scenario that's possible. So now that we've listened to all of these arguments, and I also outlined my own perspective, let me give you a couple of more points of what all of this means. First of all, this public short comes at a time where, of course, the sentiment is super, super low in NIO. So you just have to look out there in the social media. Everyone is kind of disappointed by NIO. The company fundamentals aren't great. The deliveries aren't great. So, usually you want to kind of start short when everyone's in euphoria. The stock price has risen to all-time highs or whatever. So this kind of gives me the feeling that this is kind of more of a forced short. You really want to see this company bleed and not doing well, because actually if you do some industry comparison, just comparing some price to sales multiples or other valuation metrics, you wouldn't say that NIO is kind of overpriced at these levels. But he's certainly having some very negative views on the company. So he's basically saying, look, guys, it's going to get much, much worse for this company. And at current sentiment, that's where it resonates. And I think maybe it will have one of the effects that other people might jump on board. That might be institutional investors, maybe some fund managers who are watching his Tesla content, and they may jump on board. Also, maybe want to protect their investments, or maybe just want to see a competitor go out of business. And then also maybe some retail investors may just go along and do some bets like buying put options or shorting by themselves, or maybe they're going to. This is also, of course, making money. He wants to raise capital for his funds, so maybe some people are just buying his funds, which is essentially, giving more short pressure to NIO. And of course, at this very depressed sentiment, it's sort of a more easy short, because there's not much buying pressure. So meaning there are not many buyers who want to buy NIO currently, because everyone is kind of in a wait and see area, and that makes it more likely that if there are not many buyers, that the share price is actually going down. It's becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy at this point, and possibly that's what he is betting on, because he mentioned several times also during this space that, look, who's going to buy this company? Who's going to buy those shares? So another learning for you might be that, a little bit of a media literacy, it always depends on who you're following out there. You need to see also connections between different social media accounts, who is going into which buyers. Also, if you're viewing my content, you know that I'm owning Tesla stock, you know that I'm owning NIO stock, you know that I'm rather bullish on China. So take always this as a little bit of a context there, and then you need to kind of form your own opinion. But certainly what I want to bring here is a little bit more of transparency, that these sort of things are definitely going on there, and NIO is being one of the targets out there. So this is also another learning for NIO. They need to know that these sort of mechanisms are out there, that there are competitors betting against them, playing by all rules, and NIO needs to kind of find an answer to that, because ultimately this could even have the outcome, that's diminishing NIO's probabilities of being able to raise funds, for example, or if NIO as an investment is not as successful, less people will be buying NIO cars as well. It's having effects on branding. And so if NIO is not aware of that, they should be definitely, and they need to have also their own strategies. So for example, of course, Elon Musk was facing similar headwinds for a very long time, also in the public media, but also from short seller. And Elon always managed to burn those shorts with some unexpected changes that he made, or announcements. But of course, in the end, one way to really turn around the boat here would be, of course, to not make those real big claims and out of the possibility of expectations and then not meeting them. This is, of course, an easy target for the shorts, and generally, of course, we'll see the same when there's overall anti-China movement is there, that this is, of course, helping a lot to depress such kind of share prices. And ultimately, we shouldn't be naive about this. NIO shouldn't be naive about this. But then also the short sellers need to be aware that this can certainly go wrong. Ultimately, we'll see where this will, find its way. The markets are hopefully transparent. I'm doing this here on this channel in order to, show both sides, to show what I see and what's going on. I'm trying to give you a little bit more transparency here. And by the way, this video is in a way sponsored by our patrons. This helps us to stay independent. And I'm actually looking to, grow this a little bit. We're actually thinking of hiring new people and expanding our network, and also, make this channel maybe a bit more professional over the time, because I have struggles of, meeting my work and doing still the channel at the same time. So currently thinking about how I can grow this in a bigger way. I certainly see the potential for it, and the patrons are helping us a long way to finance some of the stuff that we're doing, to possibly, employ some people in the future and help us doing some analysis work. And if you are up to that, maybe sign up for a Patreon, maybe write me some messages. We can brainstorm this together. I think there's a community approach to it, maybe a crowdfunding approach to it, and I would be certainly looking forward to doing that. So with that, please smash a like, help to spread the message. See you in another video, and thanks for watching.